What's going on, everybody? LK here, and today I want to talk a little bit more about Baiken and by extension Guilty Gear. I'm excited for Baiken. I'm definitely planning on trying her out next month. And I've uploaded a couple of videos about her because so far she's the DLC character I'm the most interested in. But the first video I uploaded about her, which was why people strongly dislike, we don't use the H word, we use strongly dislike. I got a lot of, let's say, not fuck you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but definitely some heated messages about her popularity and how could I have a take like this. So they aren't wrong, by the way, and I want to talk about Baiken as a character overall, not just from a competitive perspective, and then also just other games as well, because this thing about characters is really important at a kind of, let's say, macro level in fighting games. So again, people were correct. Like, she was the most requested character. She is a very popular character. In Exert as well, she was very, very, very heavily asked for, along with Dizzy and Johnny and Bridget as well. So starting from there, I do understand she's a super popular character in the series for people who know about the series in general. Among competitive players, as I kind of mentioned in the last video, while talking about her as a general character, like how she plays, because that video is mostly an overview about how she plays and why people don't like playing against her, literally playing against the character in the fighting part of the game. She isn't very popular. She's a defensive character. Most people in a fast rushdown game where a lot of characters are doing pressure, like extended series of pressure, they don't want to deal with guessing around counters and stuff. Usually when people get in, they're like, well, I got in, it's my turn, I get to do what I want. Baiken in particular, compared to other counter characters in Arxis games, I think is particularly strong, especially in ACR. Then on top of that too, Baiken is not that common to see at a high level of play. She's not very easy to use. Her combos are pretty difficult in both ACR to my understanding, and definitely in Exerd. You saw me do the Baiken combo trials. That last combo trial probably took me around, I want to say, 25 minutes. I don't think my execution is amazing. I think it's decent, but it took me a while, and it involves a technique that is definitely a check for new players. The instant air dash tatami that the Baiken players call Kire Tatami. I don't know why they call it that, but it's essentially you are air dashing with the tatami instantly. So you're not air dashing and then doing tatami in the air dash. You do it together. It's a pretty difficult input. She doesn't have a lot of life. So to my memory in Exerd, the order goes Chip has the least, then Milia, then Baiken. I would have to check the actual chart, but her life total is definitely quite low. Then you have to learn a lot of stuff about other characters to plan where you're going to use counters and make it hard for your opponent to push offense. So this is kind of like that lab aspect. So Milia has this too, both in Exert and Strive. So if you're talking about Milia, Exert is going to be memorizing everyone's face up, face down, wake up timings, planning your set play, blah, blah, blah. For Exert, it's going to be a lot of planning around weights and sequencing, things like that. For Baiken, the challenge is everyone does pressure differently. So how you're going to structure your defense is going to be different by character. And if you don't have this really put together, then you're not going to be pushing the character as much as you can. So this is where the meme comes in. So people demand Baiken initially, and then they don't play the game. They quite literally don't play the game. And they do some other characters like Bridget and Testament and Jam as well, like longtime characters from XX. But it feels like the energy is just sharper with Baiken. Plus, again, people don't commonly play her in tournaments. And the phrase they use for Baiken is honestly the catchiest one. No Baiken, no buy. Whoever thought of that, good job, by the way. That's some good-ass marketing right there. Real talk. I wish I had someone I could hook you up with for a job or something. So then she comes out, and then they donate some money to Arxis, and then they just move on after playing her for a while, generally. There's some people who do have been longtime Baiken players, and they do want to just keep on playing their character. And the character is a big motivation to playing Guilty Gear in general. If you're talking about Exerd, I probably would not have played for a very long time if I wasn't playing Milia. Like, a lot of my motivation to continue playing the game was Milia, for better or for worse, right? So after people bounce, after she comes out, that's kind of where the energy on the competitive player side of, oh, basically you only like Baiken if you don't play the game, and when they say don't play the game, they don't actually mean don't play the game. They mean you don't play at like a competitive level or even try to play at a competitive level. So either they don't play the game or they main the character, or as a side note, the number 3 is you play a character that beats her. So that's me. By the way, that's me. But again, like I said, I'm gonna try her this time. She looks pretty interesting, and I think she's actually something we kind of need in Strive, considering how good the mid dispensers are in this game. But I also think too, equally important is what this means, and this from here on out for sure is all opinion. So in my opinion, characters sell the games for sure. And this is why I have like a good feeling about fighting games in general for the future, which is something that deserves its own video, to be honest. Guilty Gear is a long time franchise, but it's never been really big until Strive, and even then, by all means, it's not big. It's just done better than previous versions. So we know that Strive has sold at least 500k copies. It's probably more by now. And like, real talk, it would be pretty funny if when Baiken comes out, the game gets to 1 million. That would be hilarious, and also really good for the game in my opinion. And I think it'll probably be the first time it's sold that many copies. I tried really hard to find out how many copies of Guilty Gear Xrd got sold. It was pretty hard to find. I really thought there was a chart on Twitter, but I couldn't find it. Most of the things I found when I was searching have Xrd selling at around like 100k-ish. And I think it's probably more than that, to be honest. I do remember seeing that the Revelator sales were not that great. So the initial sales of Sign were good, and then each update, since they're just revisions, right? Each update sold less and less. And to my memory, Rev 1 and Rev 2 both sold less than 100k copies. A lot of the money this game makes is from arcade as well. So they have the arcade release and they have the console release. Console release, traditionally, fighting games were secondary for a long time. We used to have to wait months, sometimes more than a year, to get a version of the game on console. As opposed to today, where people around the world are fucking eating. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Worldwide simultaneous release. I honestly can't go back. Even like, I could do like a couple of days or a week, but like, you know, even something like the old Rev, where I think we had to wait just a month to get the game, is going to be pretty tough. A lot of people actually ask, why do so many games I put on that aren't like Strive, Dragon Ball, why are they all in Japanese? Because I had to get the game in Japanese to play the game in time for tournaments, because the US version would always release really late. In Strive, we see a pretty clear pattern of new character, returning character. So I'm assuming the last character after Baiken is going to be a new character, and whoever starts season 2 will be a returning character, right? And these characters people have definitely been waiting for, and in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with characters selling a game. Need any examples? So the first one I would use, honestly, is Dragon Ball FighterZ. So Dragon Ball FighterZ, licensed fighting game. The reputation is pretty good right now after rounds and rounds of updates, but the game was definitely hit or miss when the game dropped. I remember a lot of this game only sells because Goku's in it, Super Dash is trash, and personally, while I have my qualms about the game as someone who competed in it for 3 years, I do acknowledge it's a pretty good game. I can acknowledge that a game is overall good and have problems with it, and I've done that in every game that I've made. And honestly, the franchise is a big part why it sold so many copies. I think at the time of this video, it's sold more than 8 million copies. And when you look at tournaments and you see it on like the lower side of entries, and in today's fighting game tournaments, that's probably around like 300 to 400-ish entrants. It would be hard to believe that there's so many people who bought the game, but again, that's the power of the IP, and this basically enables more fighting games to come out. So I have no problems with this. So a second example, and this is a game that I really love, is Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. So there's no X-Men in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And this is where that super famous "all the characters are functions" quote, which I'm definitely paraphrasing, came from. So a lot of popular characters from previous Marvel vs. Capcom games were not in that game, which was another dig to people who are long-time fans of the series. So another example is one of the golden children of fighting games, Street Fighter Third Strike. So even though everyone loves the game now, and some of the newcomers are now long-time established characters thanks to SF4, when this game came out, people were kind of confused about all these new characters. Like, where's Balrog? Where's Dalsum? Like, who's Remy? Who is Ibuki? Who is Oro? In the original version of Street Fighter 3, the only returning characters from Street Fighter 2 are Ryu and Ken. They add Akuma in second generation, and then Chun-Li in Third Strike, along with other new characters like Urien, who's now loved, Hugo, and most famously for being an actual trash character, 12. So it's the same idea. Bring returning characters to motivate people who played the old games to come back. So all in all, I hope this makes sense. Basically, characters are a really big part of what sell fighting games. It's why so many arena fighting games do well, because they're all based off popular anime. It's why we love games like Budokai. I know a lot of my fellow boomers enjoyed Budokai when they were younger. And I hope all the no testament, no investment, no Baiken, no buy makes sense now. As usual, if you got any comments or questions, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.